Chapter 10: Citing Sources in Your Speech. Alerting the audience to the sources you use and offering ones that they will find authoritative is a critical aspect of delivering a presentation. When you credit speech sources, you increase the odds that the audience member will believe in your message. Demonstrate the quality and range of your research to listeners. Demonstrate that reliable sources support your position. Avoid plagiarism and gain credibility as an ethical speaker who acknowledges the work of others. Enhance your own authority. Enable listeners to locate your sources and pursue their own research on the topic. Ethically, you're bound to attribute any information drawn from other people's ideas, opinions, and theories, as well as facts and statistics gathered by others, to their original sources. Remember, you need not credit sources for ideas that are common knowledge, established information likely to be known by many people described in multiple places. Alert listeners to key source information. An oral citation credits the source of speech material that is derived from other people's ideas. For each source, plan on briefly alerting the audience to the following: the author or origin of the source, which could be a documentary filmmaker, Ken Burns, or on the National Science Foundation website. The type of source, which can be journal article, book, personal interview, website, blog, or online videos, etc. The title of the description of the source, which could also be in the book Endangered Minds or in an article on sharks. The date of the source, the article published in October 10th, 2015 issue, or according to the report on revising the SAT posted online September 28th, 2015 on the Daily Beast. Spoken citations need not include a complete bibliographic reference, exact title, full names of all authors, volume, and page numbers. Doing so will interrupt the flow of your presentation and distract listeners' attention. However, do keep a running list of source details for bibliography to appear at the end of your speech draft or outline. Establish the source's trustworthiness. Too often, inexperienced speakers credit their sources in bare-bones fashion, offering a rote recitation of citation elements. For example, they might cite the source's name, but leave out key details about the source's background that could convince the audience to trust the source as a credible, believable, and his or her conclusions as true, accurate. Source credibility refers to our level of trust in a source's credentials and track record for providing accurate information. If you support a scientific claim by crediting it to an obscure personal blog, for example, listeners won't find it nearly as reliable as if you credit it to a scientist affiliated with a reputable institution. Be aware that while a source that is credible is usually accurate, this is not always so. Sometimes we have information that contradicts what we are told by a credible source. For instance, a soldier might read an article in the Washington Post about a conflict in which he or she participated. The soldier knows the story contains inaccuracies because the soldier was there. In general, however, the soldier finds the Washington Post a credible source. Therefore, since even the most credible source can sometimes be wrong, it is always better to offer a variety of sources rather than a single source to support a major point. This is especially the case when your claims are controversial. Qualify the source. A simple and straightforward way to demonstrate a source's credibility is to include a brief description of the source's qualifications to address the topic, a source qualifier, along with your oral citation. For example, researcher at Duke Cancer Institute, columnist for the Wall Street Journal. This will allow the audience to put the source in perspective, to see how you can orally cite sources in ways that the listener will accept and believe them. See from source to speech, demonstrating your source's credibility and accuracy. Quick tip: consider audience perception of sources. Not every trustworthy source is necessarily appropriate for every audience. For example, A politically conservative audience may reject the information from a liberal publication. Thus, audience analysis should factor in your choice of sources. In addition to checking your sources are reliable, consider whether they will be seen as credible by the particular audience. Avoid a mechanical delivery. Acknowledging sources need not interrupt the flow of your speech. On the contrary, audience members will welcome information that adds backing to your assertions. The key is to avoid a formulaic or mechanical delivery. Varying the wording and order in which you introduce a citation can help. Vary the wording. Avoid a rote delivery of sources by varying your wording. If you introduce one source with the phrase according to, switch to another construction, as reported by, for the next one. Alternating introductory phases contributes to a natural delivery and provides the necessary variety listeners need. Vary the order. Vary the order in which you introduce a citation. Occasionally, discuss the findings first before citing the source. For example, you might state that the caffeine can cause actual intoxication and provide evidence to back it up before revealing the source of it. The chief source for this argument is a report in July 5th, 2015 issue of the New England Journal of Medicine. Types of sources and sample oral citations. Following are common types of sources cited in a speech. The specific citation elements to mention and examples of how you might refer to these elements in a presentation. Note that each example includes an underlined source qualifier describing the source's qualifications to address the topic. For instance, Director of Undergraduate Studies for 4 years, or Research Scientist at Smith Killeen. Including a source qualifier can make the difference between winning and losing a sentence for your supporting material. Book. If a book has 2 or few authors, state first and last names, source qualifier, title, and date of publication. If there are 3 or more authors, state first and last name of the first author and co-authors. An example, in the book 1948, the first Arab-Israeli War, published in 2008, noted Israeli historian Benny Morris claims that, another example, and the civic potential of video games, published in 2009, Joseph Kahn, noted professor of education and director of the Civic Education Research Group at Mills College, and his 2 co-authors, both educators, wrote that reference work. For a reference work, for example, an atlas, directory, encyclopedia, almanac, note title, date of publication, author or sponsoring organization, and source qualifier. Here's an example. According to Literary Marketplace 2015, the foremost guide to the U.S. book publishing industry, Karen Hollard and her co-editors reported that print article. When citing from a print article, use the same guidelines as you do for a book. Example, in an article entitled How Junk Food Can End Obesity, published in the July 2013 issue of the Atlantic magazine, David H. Friedman, a journalist and author of the book Wrong, Why the Experts Keep Failing Us, argues that fast food chains such as McDonald's can offer low-cost healthy foods that high-priced health foods don't. Online-only publications. For online-only publications, use book guidelines and identify the publications as online magazine, online newspaper, or online journal. Example, in an article of Massive Online Open Courses, MMOCs, posted on July 23, 2013, on the online magazine State, Gabriel Kahn, a professor at the University of Southern California and director of the Future of Journalism at Annenberg Innovation Lab, from source to speech. Demonstrating your source's credibility and accuracy. How can I lead audience to accept my sources as credible and accurate? 1. If the source is affiliated with a respective institution, identify that affiliation. 2. If citing a study linked to a reputable institution, identify the institution. 3. If a source has relevant credentials, note the credentials. 4. If the source has relevant real-life experience, mention that experience. In the following excerpt from a speech about becoming a socially conscious consumer, the speaker omits information about his key sources that would help convince his audience that his evidence and sources are trustworthy. The force behind the new kind of partnership is called cause marketing. According to the Financial Times, cause marketing is when a company and consumer group or a charity tackle a social or economic problem and create business values for a company at the same time. A survey on consumer responses to cause marketing was conducted by Nielsen. The poll found that 2/3 of consumers around the world would say they prefer to buy products and services from companies that have programs that give back to society. And over 46% of consumers were willing to pay more for goods and services from companies that were giving back. Below, we see a much more convincing issue of the same sources. The force behind the new kind of partnership is called cause marketing. According to the Financial Times lexicon, an online directory found at the publication's website, and cause marketing, a company and a consumer group or charity tackle a social or environmental problem and create business value for the company at the same time in March of 2012. And the global marketing firm Nielsen, which studies consumer behavior in more than 100 countries, conducted a worldwide study on cause marketing and found that 2/3 of consumers around the world say they prefer to buy products and services from companies that have programs that give back to society. And over 46% of them said that they were, and I'm quoting here from the survey question, willing to pay more for goods and services from companies that are giving back. Organization website. Name the website, source qualifier, section of website cited, if applicable, and last update. An example of this would be on its website, last updated September 18, 2015, the Society of Interventional Radiology, a national organization of physicists and scientists, physicians, not physicists, explained that radio waves are harmless to healthy cells. If website content is undated or not regularly updated, review the site for credibility before use, using the criteria listed on page 58-69, which was, I think, chapter 7, from source to speech evaluating web sources. Blog. Name the blogger, source, qualifier, affiliated website, if applicable, and date of posting. An example of this is in July 8, 2015, posting on Talking Points Memo, a news blog that specializes in original reporting on government and politics, editor Josh Marshall notes that television or radio program. Name the program, segment, reporter, source, qualifier, and date aired. Example, Judy Woodruff, PBS News Shore, co-anchor, described in a segment on the auto industry, aired on June 2nd, 2015. Online video. Name the online video source, program, segment, source, qualifier, and date aired, if applicable. An example, in a session on mindfulness in the world delivered at the Wisdom 2.0 conference on February 26, 2015, and broadcast on YouTube, John Kabat-Zinn, scientist, renowned author, and founding director of the Stress Reduction Clinic. Quick tip. Credit sources and presentation aids. Just as you acknowledge the ideas of others in verbal portion of your speech, be sure to credit such material used in any accompanying presentation aids. When reproducing copyrighted materials such as table or photograph, label it with a copyright symbol C and the source information. Even if it's not copyrighted, supporting material listed on the visual aid may require citation. You may cite this material orally, print the citation unobstructedly on the aid, or both. Testimony, lay or expert. Name the person, source or qualifier, and date and context in which information was offered. Here's an example. On July 17, 2015, in congressional testimony before the U.S. Senate Foreign Relations Committee, Thomas A. Shannon, Jr., an attorney with the U.S. Department of State, described the exodus of unaccompanied minors from Central America. Interview and other personal communications. Name the person, source qualifier, and date of the interview or communications. Example. In an interview I conducted last week, Tim Zuten-Horst, chairman of the Orange City Area Health System Board at Orange City Hospital in Iowa, said, and the second example, in a June 23rd email letter memorandum from Ron Jones, a researcher at the Cleveland Clinic, here's a checklist offering key source information. Have I identified the author or origin of the source? Have I indicated this type of source? Have I offered the title or description of the source? Have I noted the date of the source? Have I qualified the source to establish its reliability and credibility?